Group 2 family, how's everybody doing? Calvin Sidnor here. I appreciate you all listening to my triangulation story and experience. It started at my current home church back in 2015. And I guess I have to preface the triangulation by saying that I was, I would say, a pretty well-respected elder in the church, relatively quiet. Worked hard and did what I needed to do. I was asked in May of 2015 if I would like to be the speaker for Men's Day, and I said yes. And that was around the time I knew that the Lord was calling me, so I was a little apprehensive and nervous, not certain what to do. I didn't feel prepared, but needless to say, the Men's Day worship service was wonderful. The sermon preparation confirmed my call to the ministry. The people received the message well and were very affirming of me, and all was very well. At the next session meeting, the pastor, who was not well respected at the church and hadn't been for some years because of his sermons not being well received and him being viewed as a passive-aggressive leader, there were lots of silent conflict. I think I can honestly say it was silent conflict, but the tension, you could cut it with a knife. And so following one of the session meetings, of course, I was pulled aside by the clerk of session and a well-respected elder, and they asked me what my thoughts were and, what would I do and what recommendations would I have for better sermon preparation. And they just really wanted to get my insight. And of course, I did not feel prepared. And so I listened intently, and I just said, listen, let's have some prayer right now, for kind of what is going on. And then I recommended that they go and have a direct conversation with the pastor. Well, unfortunately, that did not happen. I found out later. And it did I believe it opened me up for another triangulation when I was the chair of an officer nominating committee, where there was some contention going on. And the break was a lady standing up and then looking at me. And the moderator was behind the pulpit, and I was behind the lectern. And the person said, "Reverend Sidnor, what do you have to say about this?" And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And so I again called for prayer, and that, as Presbyterians, we do things decently and in order, and, really just turned everything back over to the moderator who was in charge to begin with. It was very awkward. And, I feel like I should have had a conversation following with the pastor to tell him what my thoughts were and where I stood with perhaps what people were saying and how we should move forward together in terms of the leadership body. And maybe we should have had this conversation as well at the session level. That never occurred. I think there was just too much tension for a productive conversation to be had at that point. Sadly, the pastor ultimately resigned from the church. If I had to do it all over again, I would have sat down with the pastor just to express my concern for the other concerns that people are having, and would perhaps ask him to have an open door so that people could come in and have a real, genuine conversation with him. I don't believe that happened, and as a result, the pastor, who I believe was in a third position, he shrunk. The anxiety, I believe, and the fear that he experienced allowed others to kind of come to the leadership top of the mountain, so to speak. And there were some things that were enlightening in terms of new leadership that would come to the top, but others were more destructive in their high positions that they felt like they had in terms of making decisions. I would be very interested in hearing what you all have to say about my triangulation situations. It was very complex. Prayerfully, things have changed. We're very happy now, but we definitely went through a very dark season, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I look forward to your words of wisdom. Blessings.